Welcome to another of our online reflection for learning activities. This one's called Feeling Meaning. It comes from Eugene Gendlin's work on the felt experience of meaning. Examples of which are things like having something on the tip of your tongue. And this is an exercise to explore some of that. So what I'd like you to do is to just identify an area that you're learning about or you're researching at the moment, and select a key term in this area whose definition matters. So we're looking for a term whose definition matters to you, that it's important to you how this term is defined. So take a minute or two, or not a minute or two, take a little bit of time just to find a term that you're curious about, and the defining really is the thing that's important for you. And then just notice, do you have a definition of this term ready to hand? Does it come straight away when you think of the term? And if you do, you can either write it down or remember it. So just really take in what the definition is of this term that comes for you first. So with that definition here, if you had to give a fresh definition that explained this term, gave a definition for this term in a new way, what would you say? So take your time and let a fresh definition come, something that explains it perhaps to somebody who doesn't follow the first definition, or explains it into a different context or something. And when the fresh definition comes, just make a note of it somehow. It could be write it down, or again, just remember it. And when you're ready, when you've done that job of having a fresh definition come, step back and reflect on how you check that your definition fits. How are you checking that that you are saying what you mean? What are you checking your fresh words against? What is that checking process? And if you find that a hard question to explore or to interpret, you could think about when you're editing a document and you reach a phrase that doesn't feel right and you let some new words come. When the new words come, how do you tell that they feel right, that they fit? What's going on there? And then just take a bit of time to explore and to absorb really your capacity to come up with fresh ways of speaking when you need to. Just really appreciating that we started with a definition that came relatively ready to hand, that came first, and then you were able to find another definition for a term. And is there anybody who'd just like to comment a little bit about what their experience was there? What you noticed? Yeah, go for it, Anne-Louise.
I guess for me, the word is context in terms of my checkpoint. I was using another word to sort of think about different ways of defining it. And I was realizing how sometimes it can be defined in such a technical way. And for particular audiences, that would be appropriate. But for me or others, it might not. And so I think the reference point is the context in which you're trying to communicate, or the audience, and how that can influence ultimately the definition.
Well, and how did you know that your second definition was a good one, that was one that worked?
Well, that's the subjectivity of it all. I thought it might be a good one for somebody, it might not work for some of my colleagues, my friends.
Yeah.
So you don't know until you attempt to communicate it, and you can determine if people are responding to it in some way.
So kind of the right way to say that might be then it was kind of like, it felt like a possibly good definition, and you were kind of feeling towards that uncertainty about who you'd actually be using it with, something like that.
It was another way of expressing the same concept, and that it may work for some.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just having regard to our timing issues, just invite anybody who's practicing along with this to notice that there is a way like this of looking at very fine-grained stuff around how we think, and that you will find yourself able to kind of come up with fresh ways of moving, and that's an interesting thing to point out to students and to others, including researchers, when you're sort of sitting with the question of how do we actually work creatively or innovatively around some problem space. We got even in fine-grained examples like this, you can see our capacity to do that. And then if you'd like to find out more about reflection for learning practices, you can look at our practice guide that's available at Advance HE. This particular practice is not in the first edition, but we'll put it in the second edition. And if you have a go trying this one out or any of our others, we'd love to hear from you. And our email is here, reflection4lc@gmail.com. Thanks very much for watching the video.